Hey Masters, listen, we just started a brand new Facebook group. It's called Path to Mastery. What else would it be called, right? Here's the thing. Every Monday, 12:30 Eastern, we are bringing you value. What I'm doing is I will be live answering all your questions about the interview, sharing some additional stuff that I got from the interview that's not out there for everybody. And my friends, if you have any challenges that you're dealing with, I would love to help you with those challenges and do some masterminding. So every Monday, the purpose is bringing massive value. Go to Path to Mastery on Facebook, search the group, and request access. That's it. Path to Mastery on Facebook, request access. I'll get you in the group. Guys, Monday, 12:30 Eastern. Look forward to seeing you there and bringing massive value. Tell somebody. You rock.
I do have a belief that everybody can sell. I believe if we get in tune with our core strengths and we come at our sales process from those core strengths, and part of it is just knowing what our core strengths are. What's not working in sales today is believing that you can sit behind the computer and generate a pile of leads over the internet and somehow convert that all into cash. I just don't see it.
Masters, welcome to another episode of Path to Mastery. And Chris, thanks for joining me, man.
You're welcome, David. I've been looking forward to this one all day, all week. I think you and I had a couple of missteps where I think I missed the time we were supposed to have. Anyway, I'm very grateful for us finally getting together.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And I am very passionate about this topic that we're going to talk about today, which is sales call reluctance. And a little bit about you, Chris. Your name's Chris Spurvey is the last name. You grew up on the picturesque island of Newfoundland, east coast of Canada. And you were an entrepreneur, right? And you were looking to create a better life for your family. You realized that there were some negative beliefs about sales that were actually holding you back.
For sure.
Yeah, so talk to us about that, man. Fill in some of those gaps. Tell us a little more about yourself, and then we'll jump into this.
Yeah, sure. When I reflect back on my first ever exposure to sales, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the door-to-door Electrolux vacuum cleaner salesmen back in the 1980s. In particular, they were knocking on doors, and I remember on a Sunday afternoon, I was out playing street hockey. I would have been 11 years old at that time, and I came in to my family dinner that evening, cold October day in Canada, Newfoundland, Canada. We sat down for supper and the doorbell rang, or maybe at that time it was a knock. I can't remember even if there was doorbells existed back then. But anyway, to make a long story short, it was the Electrolux vacuum cleaner salesman. And I had never heard of my mom or dad talking about a need for a new vacuum, but I observed in a very quick period of time how my mom and dad were persuaded. And no matter what objection my mom and dad put up, my mom and dad that night bought a $3,000 vacuum in 1983, which is about $12,000 today. And yes, it was a great vacuum, but they thought about it for the next month or two as they tried to figure out how to pay for it. I kind of internalized that pain, I suppose, as sales is something negative. So I definitely did not have fertile genes or anything like that as it pertains to sales. So that's kind of the story behind my first exposure to sales.
Interesting. Well, yeah, it's funny, and I don't know if I shared this with you, but my first sales job was actually in a call center setting appointments up for the Kirby vacuum cleaner salespeople. So different brand, but I think there was about the same amount of money. And that's going back 33 years now. So it's been a while, man.
Yeah, well, there you go, right? And you know what? Now thinking back, that Electrolux vacuum cleaner salesman wasn't doing anything wrong. They were solving pains for people, solving problems for people. It's just the way my mom and dad kind of expressed and bought something that they couldn't afford at that point in time and so on. And I remember just observing that Electrolux vacuum cleaner salesman being very scripted in his approach, and he knew how to fight certain objections, right, around price and so on.
Sure.
So that's how I internalized sales, and that's how I thought you had to do sales to be successful.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because, based on what you said, yeah, a good salesman showed up and obviously he made the sale, but he also may have put you or your family in a situation that was maybe not in their best interest, right?
Right.
So that's what kind of created that negative belief. So I guess the question is, how do you know as a salesperson when you're sitting with somebody, is this in their best interest, or maybe it's not in their best interest? Maybe you just want to make the sale because you need to earn a commission, but it's maybe not the best thing for them.
A part of the answer to that, from my perspective, is aligning yourself with a company, with a product, with a compensation plan that has alignment, has attunement to what the problem, the timing, and so on of your buyer is. And that may sound like a perfect world, but I really believe us as individuals are at home. We are in our place to be when we are in alignment with our buyers' needs and so on, right? How do you get to the bottom of it? I mean, that's where those probing questions, really feeling at a cellular level, feeling the pain that your client has. I think it's all in coming at it from the perspective of truly wanting to be of service and so on, and letting your instincts and letting your intuition take kind of over from there, you know. And I don't want to make that sound like too hairy-fairy of an answer to that question. But I think we can go to bed at night feeling a whole lot better about ourselves. You know, maybe that's the guide. Maybe the guide is going to bed at night as a seller and feeling good about ourselves. We cannot feel good about ourselves when we're forcing a client to do something that's not in their best interest, if that makes sense.
Hey, Masters, David Hill here. And man, I hope you're enjoying the show. Chris is just killing it for us today. It's an honor to have him on. And listen, we're all salespeople. I mean, this is the stuff that's going to help us be more successful. You know, sales call reluctance, right? I mean, we all deal with some form of that. We all unfortunately get in slumps. So when you get in a slump, how do you break out of that slump? You know, those are the things that Chris is sharing with us. And just how to come from a place of service and contribution when you meet with people. And that's the way that's going to help you deal with people saying no, or that fear of rejection that unfortunately so many of us struggle with. So listen, if you just come from a place of service, and you're going to be fine, my friends. Listen, enjoy Chris. And as you know, we've got some amazing sponsors, guys. Vulcan 7, check them out for all your prospecting needs. FSBO's expired. You can literally load your database into Vulcan 7. However you want to do it, you can use their dialer, use their CRM. Tremendous system. They've got some awesome discounts. Just go to vulcan7.com/path to mastery, and you can check out the deals that they have for our clients. And as you know, we're always offering free books because we know everybody loves a free book. So again, you can always get your free copy of the One Thing book. As a matter of fact, that's the book that Chris talked about today, the One Thing book. So just go to davidsfreebook.com and get yourself a free copy on Audible of the One Thing that you can listen to wherever you want. So anyway, listen, you rock. Enjoy the rest of Chris. Obviously, our listeners are salespeople, but they're also buyers on the other end as well, buyers and sellers. And, you know, one thing, I've been doing sales for most of my life. I appreciate it when a really, really good salesperson calls me. To be honest with you, if somebody that's really good calls me, I will hear them out just because I respect that.
Absolutely.
Then at the other side is if somebody that's mediocre calls me, then I'm gonna get off the phone with them pretty quickly, right?
And you as the buyer, your intuition guides that, right? You know when you're being had. Most people do. You know when you're being pushed versus, say, pulled. Your spider senses go off, you know, and I'm in it for the long haul. I mean, we're only here once as sellers, and we want to do things in a way that a customer is going to be a customer for life. Why not? Why not? If we're going to do it, let's do it right.
Yeah, 100%. So I think going back to what we talked about so far, it's really when you're selling, it's about coming from a place of contribution or service where you're really there to help the buyer with some type of a challenge that they have, right? That's what the product or service is going to do. And if you're coming from that place, that's great. That's 3/4 of the battle right there, right?
Yes.
In itself. And like you said, if you can sleep at night, maybe that's the test. And, you know, honestly, it can be tough sometimes, like I said, to walk away when you know you need to make this sale happen. That's something we all have to deal with individually, right? I mean, again, I think if you're operating from integrity and you're doing a needs analysis and you know that this is in the client's best interest, then your job is, okay, let's help them make the decision to purchase the product. Okay. We're going to start with a place where, okay, we're working in the best interest of the clients. We're coming from a place of service. Now there's still all those other forms of car reluctance that are getting in the way here.
Yeah, I mean, and most of those are grounded in a image on the screen of our minds of what it is we're doing. And either that image motivates us to act, and maybe just a step back further, I think anybody listening to this podcast will agree that we think in pictures. When I say the word refrigerator, it's likely you as the listener, your mind has this way of it travels through time and space, and there's an image on the screen of your mind of the pictures of the refrigerator sitting in your kitchen. If we have an image on the screen of our mind, when I say the word sales, if that image is anything but positive, being of service, filling voids and solving pain, then we are going to have a reluctance. That's one form of reluctance. The other form of reluctance is when we've been beat up and we've internalized the negative objections and the no's that we all as sellers experience. If we internalize them in such a way that we feel at fault.
It's like we're taking it personal, right?
We're taking it personally, exactly. That's also going to lead to call reluctance or sales reluctance, So that's kind of the two forms that I've seen.
There are multiple forms. I agree with you 100%. The challenge, going back to what I said, I know there's a lot of really good intentioned people out there who unfortunately aren't making a lot of sales because either they're not good at sales. I hate to say it like that. Maybe sales isn't the right career for them, or it is the right career for them, and they just have some of these obstacles to get over, like you said, like fear of rejection or not coming from a place of service, or maybe they are. I don't know. This is an interesting conversation.
It is, yeah. I mean, I do have a belief that everybody can sell. I believe if we get in tune with our core strengths, and we come at our sales process from those core strengths. And part of it is just knowing what our core strengths are. And then if we can use those core strengths to sell in a way that is unique to us. And on top of that, it's, another thing that comes to mind is some people, like I do a lot of work with niche consulting organizations, whether they're engineers, disability management consultants, project managers. These are all people who are really good at what they do, but traditionally they struggle to sell. Even though in the organizations they're a part of, they are expected to sell. So what I have learned to do, one of my core areas of expertise is helping them as subject matter experts, finding a way to sell that's unique to them, right? Anyway, I don't mean to take it in a different direction and call reluctance. I apologize for that. But it's all about finding a way to sell that makes you feel good. And if you can find a way to sell that makes you feel good, selling becomes a byproduct. You're just doing what you're doing.
Yeah, I want to take you back to what you said maybe a minute ago. You said selling to their strength. So, Chris, give us a few examples of what that would look like for someone that would be selling to their strengths.
Well, yeah, I got tons of examples. I mean, one of the organizations I've worked with over the years is KPMG. And in that organization, it's seen as a global financial accounting firm. But anyway, to make a long story short, it's a bunch of consultants who are really good at what they do in the areas of tax and accounting and so on. I was working with a guy, his name is, we'll call him Ed. Ed was a consultant looking to get promoted into being a manager. And in order to do that, he needed to grow a book of business. So we sat down and I asked him questions, not about his career, about other areas of his life. We started talking about how he loves the Ford Mustang cars, the old ones and so on. And he even goes as far as to have a online forum where he participates in the forum and with other Ford Mustang drivers and owners of cars. And anyway, the more we dissected it, I noticed his energy go up as we were talking about things that he was passionate about, such as Mustang cars. So I really was able to show him how in the forms, he asks questions. He asks questions about Mustangs. And, so he has a natural curiosity around the various pieces of the car and so on. And he has a tremendous problem-solving ability. He's able to dissect the problems of his friends who own Ford Mustangs and so on. And so through those lenses, I was able to see how he had the strength of problem-solving and the strength of curiosity. And I was able to really help him see that when he goes in he was an IT consultant within KPMG, taking those same curious and problem-solving strengths and applying them into conversations with prospective clients, he began doing that. And he emailed me within a couple of weeks, and he had landed his first $1 million contract for the firm. And he went on to become a partner actually within the firm. So that's one example of focusing in on strengths and seeing sales through a different lens than believing that as an IT consultant that you got to go out and quote unquote, get a new client. It just felt a whole lot better for him, and he was able to do it more effectively. So that's one example. Is
that like a relationship selling based on a relationship and maybe something that the two parties have in common? Is that what you're referring to?
Well, what I'm referring to there is really it's a consultative sales process. So
okay.
Yeah. So you go in and you have a good, what I call diagnostic conversation, right? And I guess prior to the diagnostic conversation, which is really asking questions, you get to know the person. So it is building relationships. I work with a lot of people, and one of the first things I teach them as a part of becoming more comfortable with sales is building relationships through, I give them the acronym FORM, right? Asking questions about family, occupation, recreation, and motivation. So when you have a model like FORM in your mind, ask questions about family. You ask a question about family, typically the person you're talking to is going to ask you a question about your family. Ask a question about what do you do and what do you like about what you do, and so on. 15 minutes of forming somebody, you can start to get a bit deeper with them and start to get into the problems at hand, which is typically related to your product.
For people listening right now, I mean, if there's 3 things that are going to make them a more effective salesperson that they want to focus on, what would you say? Obviously, you just gave us the first one. What would be those top 3?
The second one that I'll point out, and this is something that I help my clients deeply with, and it's a no-brainer. It's just about being consistent with your outbound prospecting, right? And how do you get consistent with outbound prospecting? From my vantage point, it is as simple as scheduling time on your calendar for outbound sales prospecting. So most of my clients, again, being niche consulting organizations, I have the consultants scheduling from 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock or however much they can afford Monday mornings for reaching out and setting up various meetings with prospects, setting up next steps with prospects, being very diligent, because I think you'll agree in sales, certainly for non-sales sellers like consultants, if once they're into their jobs and delivering on their jobs and they get busy, the first thing that's going to fall off is the consistent business development. That's really the key to why they are where they are, right? So consistency around scheduling time is so very important. So that will be number 2.
Why aren't more people consistent?
Well, I think it goes back to the reluctance that you referred to, that we started talking about. They see sales as something that they do to people versus something that they do with people. And so when you're uncomfortable with doing something to someone, with doing something to somebody, you naturally let that thing fall off, right? So that's what I have learned is the number one reason. I think some of it's just human nature. You go out and land a new big deal, or you sell some new product or service, you have a tendency to take that as a reward, is to take a breath and rest a little bit. So I do believe a lot of the consistency of revenue, you lose consistency in your revenue because of that breath you take after you land a deal. I would prefer to take the reward for a new deal is to go out and take another swing, And again, it all comes down to the image on the screen of your mind, right? What's going to motivate you to act? And maybe that's the third piece. The third piece is having a vision for your future that is really compelling and something that is going to motivate you to consistently act and be disciplined and not let sales fall off the side of your desk and not bother with it. Having a vision for your future that motivates you to act and act strongly.
Yeah, interesting. The majority of our listeners are real estate agents. And one thing I've seen in real estate is we'll make a sale And then we'll stop prospecting and put all of our energies into making sure that we service, which you need to service your clients, don't get me wrong, but all energy goes into servicing and making sure that closes. So then what ends up happening is now you've just created a gap in your prospecting. So once that closes, maybe it takes 2 to 3 months to close. Now you're like, crap, I don't have any business. Now I got to start prospecting again. It creates this cycle.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Oh, 100% sense. And you and I had an email exchange around the book, The One Thing. I remember that just dawned on me. And I got this image in the screen of my mind there there's an image in that book of, it's all about balancing and how that's a myth to some extent, right? And the zigzag. I just think the perfect world is when we're devoting time to servicing existing clients and clients that are in the process of closing and delivery, but also just making sure that you are adding new prospects at all times. And maybe to some extent, the thermostat is turned up at certain times a little bit more to the servicing, but having a reminder, okay, it's time to get back and get back full force into the prospecting as well, right?
Masters, we are going to get you right back to the show. Listen, this really helps to keep this podcast going. So please, our sponsors, Vulcan7.com, for all the data you need for making phone calls, a dialer built in, a CRM built in, a calendar system. If you need data for expireds, for sale by owners, you want to pull your sphere of influence, check out Vulcan 7 for 2 weeks for only $49. Check out the service. If you love it, keep with it. Vulcan7.com/path to mastery. Listen, free books, okay? Who doesn't love a free book? If you love podcasts, you're going to love Audible. It's audio books. As a matter of fact, I would get yourself a copy of Secrets of the Millionaire Mind right now. Just go to davidsfreebook.com. Yep, they're going to ask you to sign up. But here's what you do. You sign up, and then you just set a reminder in your calendar. So if you don't want to stick with Audible, I don't know why you wouldn't, but if you don't want to, then just cancel before your card is ever charged. Okay, so you get, again, a free audiobook from Audible, davidsfreebook.com. And finally, putting together an amazing program webinar series on sales call reluctance, which starts October 3rd. Just go to listnow.us to check it out. Anything you need to know about limiting beliefs, about call reluctance, fear of rejection, fear of success. We're covering them all, my friends. October 3rd, check it out. Listnow.us. You rock. Here's a topic that I think is going to be very, very useful for our listeners. How to break a sales slump, right? I mean, we're in an industry right now where inventory is low. There's a ton of competition, more than there's ever been. There's a ton of pressure on real estate agents from all these technology companies. When things like that are happening, how do you break through that? What would be your advice?
I think we'll all agree that pursuit, being in constant forward motion, is really the prescription to solve any sales problem. A shark will suffocate if it stops moving forward. We as salespeople need to be in constant motion all the time. One of the things that I suggest is, when we are in a slump, we're in a slump 90% of the time. It's because we have told ourselves the story that we are in a slump. So why not change the story? And maybe before getting out of bed in the morning, the first thing we do is relive in our minds some past successes. Feel those past successes and feel what it was like to win again. And then let's get out of bed and let's do something certain. My head goes to, let's meet up for coffee with a past customer or a customer who was very happy and satisfied with the service that you gave them. Let's just get in the energy of that positivity, right? And then I think it's really all about going back to my initial thought of consistency, taking swings every single day. And I'm also a big believer in every night before I go to sleep, I'll sit down for 5 minutes. I got a ritual that I go through. And one of the things that I do is I record the small wins for that day. And what I've learned in sales, and I guess it does come down to, and I do believe in real estate. I mean, it's very rare for you to sell a house every single day. I mean, you'd be a top performer in the world, I would think. And I'm not too close to the stats of real estate agents, but to sell a house every day, which representing a buyer on a house is a win. That's the win you're looking for. And so that's the big win. But a big win don't happen every day, but there are a series of small wins that equate to the big win. So sitting down before you go to bed that night and finding 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 small wins for every single day. And, so I just believe that you can knock yourself out of a sales slump through those types of things, right? And really it's all about staying on the positive side versus getting stuck into the negative headspace of the slump.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because right now, that's the prescription that we're giving to everybody in the real estate world. That right now, you can find a win, as I think, what you were talking about, is getting back to the people the people you've done business with in the past, and getting back into conversation with those people. So many real estate agents, and I'm guessing it's probably similar in other industries, with tech have kind of gotten away from that, and they've been so dependent on internet leads and these leads from these websites, from these people that we have no connection with, don't know us from a hole in the wall, and really, frankly, could care less.
Right.
And we take that personal. And I think getting back to, like you said, finding some wins, getting your mindset right, getting back in touch with those people that I think that's the best prescription right now.
Yeah, agree 100%. I totally see what you're saying. I think overall, as a society, let's call it enterprise, we've had a shift towards just thinking business is going to happen if we sit behind our computers and communicate on social media and so on. And I think the reality of it is everyone's doing the same thing. And I don't think there's really been anybody who's achieved immense success doing what everybody's doing. The people who are being successful are the people who buck the trend and do something different. And, I'm also a believer, I think the phone is coming back, right? I mean, phoning people is what we should be doing today, right? I have, and maybe if I can just share a little tip with your audience, I'm having a lot of success with video-based emails. Have you ever heard of Vidyard? It's a little free tool that you can have for your Gmail. You can record a video and it embeds it right into the email. And what I've learned is you can record a video and embed it in your email a lot faster than typing it. And that video, you're appealing to the multiple senses, sight and sound and so on. I have noticed a major uptick in the energy of my conversations, one-to-one conversations, as a result of using video as a means to generate that conversation.
What's the name of that?
Vidyard there's Vidyard. It's a free one. I had on my podcast a couple of weeks ago the owner of another company called Boom Boom. I think it's Boom Boom. Bomb. There you go. I believe that's a paid for solution, but it has all kinds of additional statistics and so on. So I've never used it, even though I had the owner on my show, but Vidyard is a free one. Anyway, that's just something I've noticed, been using a lot recently.
Well, I mean, listen, we talked about call reluctance. We talked about some ways to kind of break out of a slump if you're in one. What's not working? What's not working right now in sales today?
We've already touched on it. What's not working in sales today is believing that you can sit behind the computer and generate a pile of leads over the internet and somehow convert that all into cash. I just don't see it. You can leverage it to help you build a brand and to help you build awareness. Like I left my corporate job in 2017 and jumped out as a sales trainer consultant because I had built a bit of a social media presence, such as my podcast. I said this podcast, my podcast, and I had published articles on LinkedIn. When I met with my prospects, it was like I was on second base. They knew me, liked me, and trusted me, so to speak, prior to even meeting them. And I can only attribute it to the podcast, my book, my articles, my social media presence, and so on. I would never have been able to close a deal sitting behind the computer, but it certainly, I would say, facilitated the trust and the confidence building that I could make a difference.
And listen, there are some people that do really, really good at it, but that's their one thing, right? I mean, they, like the Gary V's of the world, right, that have built a whole business and brand on internet lead generation or Facebook ads and stuff like that. But I think for the masses, we should have a combination of all of those things.
Agree.
I mean, I didn't just build my business from phone. I built my business from prospecting, But at some point, if I wanted to take my business to the next level, then I needed to incorporate marketing and Facebook ads and client events and all kinds of different sources of business. Ultimately, Chris, it came down to the relationship. In the end, it always comes down to the relationship.
Yeah, and being one-to-one, face-to-face, skin-to-skin, so to speak, is really, that's the most expedient way to build a relationship and to come at it from the perspective of truly wanting to create a relationship and deliver service. The emblem that I kind of stand by, I mean, many people have their one word. Well, I have an emblem, and it's the apothecary scale. And in one bowl is marked rewards, and the other bowl is marked service. And I just know that my rewards in life will grow in proportion to the amount of service I pile in the service bucket, right? Coming at it in a genuine fashion is the most important thing, and you can sniff out a fake pretty quick.
Yeah, amen to that, man. What is the most important ingredient for mastery from your perspective, Chris?
The most important ingredient for mastery and, becoming really good at what you do is quite simply consistency of effort. And as you're going through consistency of effort, taking the time, whether it's daily, weekly, or monthly, and just evaluating on an ongoing basis what is generating results and focusing more on the things that are generating the results and discarding the things that are not generating the results and being in a constant state of pivoting around what's working. I really believe if we're not growing, we're dying, so let's just make that decision to continue growing. And I mean, age becomes irrelevant if we're growing ourselves mentally and so on.
For me, mastery it's just a constant path. I don't believe we arrive one day and say, okay, I'm a master now. I think we can all get to very high levels, yet I think there's always still a lot more to learn.
Absolutely. I think it was Earl Nightingale who said that success, and I guess you could call success mastery, there's both the same things. Success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. And maybe I'll just challenge anybody listening to just take that definition and break it down word for word and try to figure out for yourself what each of those words means. But really, it's all about the journey, and there is no destination. You just commit to being a bit better every day.
Love it, man. So what didn't I ask? Better question, right? This is probably my best question today. What should I have asked you that we didn't talk about today?
Maybe I can share a book, and this is kind of top of mind right now for me because I was interviewed for another podcast last night and they asked me about a book that had an impact on me. And it's sort of an unknown book by the name of Mach 2 with Your Hair on Fire. It's written by a gentleman by the name of Richard Brooke. Richard is actually a major proponent of the network marketing profession. I'm not in network marketing, but somehow I found Richard Brooke and found his book, and it had an immense impact on me about 20 years ago. In the book, I learned the correlation between having a vision for your life and how having one that gives you the juice and gives you the energy to get out there and make something big happen in your life. The byproduct of a vision, a positive vision, is self-motivation. And self-motivation, I have learned to be the number one ingredient that really propels you forward, right? Anyway, that's kind of where my head went on that. And I guess second to that, I'm a huge fan of Gary Keller's The One Thing. And it had an immense impact on me at a very important time in my life. And I've been focused on every day I wake up and I ask myself, what's the one thing that if I do, will make everything else easier or unnecessary. And that's a big piece of what propels me forward. So anyone listening, check out those two books.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you for that. How do our listeners get in touch with you, Chris?
My website is chrisspurvey.com. You can check out me there. And my last name is spelled SPURVEY.com. I authored a book in 2016. It's sold over 200,000 copies now. It's called It's Time to Sell, Cultivating the Sales Mindset. And if you actually go on my website, you can get a PDF version for free, or you can buy it at Amazon or in Canada Chapters. And so, yeah, and LinkedIn, from a social media presence perspective, LinkedIn is where I'm too. So just search up Chris Spurvey, and I'd love to interact with you on LinkedIn.
Awesome. And you have a podcast as well. What's the name of your podcast?
Yeah, It's Time to Sell, and you're going to be a guest on it. So let's make
Love it, man. And so final question, you know what? I mean, my final question is always, what's the one thing you want everybody to take from this episode today? So what's the one thing you want everybody to take, 30 seconds or less?
I would say go out today, write out a list of 30 goals for your life, the things you want to do, be, and have in your life, and use those goals as fuel to create a vision for your future that's going to motivate you to act.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. There's, I can't remember the saying, but it was something along the lines of, where there's no vision,
people will perish.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, where there's no vision, people will perish. And everybody I work with, that's the first thing I encourage you. You have to first sit down and figure out, what's the vision for your business and why. And you need to be clear on that before people are even going to work with you, because you're only going to align with people that are in alignment with your vision.
Absolutely.
Well, hey, again, I appreciate you, and I just want to thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
Masters, I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for listening to this episode. I get it. You're ready to move on. And real quick, before you do, a couple opportunities for you. First off, I just want to, if you could give me a review, it helps tremendously for rankings as well as helping us get better guests, everything. It's just awesome. So if you could, wherever you listen to podcasts, if you're on iTunes, that's amazing. If you're using Android, wherever you listen, be phenomenal. I just really say I appreciate that. I just launched a brand new Facebook group. It's really excited to get this thing going. The goal is every day bring inspirational stuff, videos, stuff that's not going to be accessible to everybody, certain trainings, opportunities, webinars, everything. So it's a free group, guys. Just go to Path to Mastery. Search Path to Mastery on Facebook. You'll find a group. Request access, and I will get you in right away. I promise you. And books. I talk about free books all the time. You probably already heard me talk about free books a million times, and I know everybody loves a free book. So just go to davidsfreebook.com on Audible. Go to David's Free Book. Get yourself a copy of any of the authors that we've interviewed. I mean, why not get a free book? It's free. It's amazing. davidsfreebook.com. And again, I just want to say thanks. And as you know, health and nutrition has always been number one for me. Just completed my first Ironman, guys. Lake Placid, 70.3 in the books. Goal was break 7 hours. Did it 6:49. Next year, I'm breaking 6 hours, guaranteed. I'm happy. I did my first one. I cruised through. I followed my coach's plan and cruised through. And next year, I'm going all in. Anyway, the reason I'm sharing that is because I'm on Advocare products. I've been taking them for a long time. Tremendous health and nutrition products. If you're interested in learning about the products, go to livelongersmarter.com. livelongersmarter.com. You can check out the products for energy, protein, health and nutrition, vitamins, anything you need is there. My friends, thank you, and then please give us a review. You absolutely rock, and I look forward to connecting with you on the next episode. And if you need anything from me, shoot me an email, david@davidihill.com, or if you like, call me, 774-314-1107. Thank you.